think's gonna win between Joshua and Furry?
Listen, I think I really think I like that. You know, I love fucking Josh, but I think this Tyson's too elusive. He's not gonna hit him. Listen, we keeping it honest, right? I like
Yeah,
Joshua. I like Joshua a lot, right? He don't punch. Maybe he punch harder than what's the other guy? The black guy,
Wilder.
Wilder. He doesn't punch faster than Wilder. If he doesn't punch faster than Wilder, he's not gonna fucking touch this guy.
And
That's just what I see. He punches hard, but he doesn't punch fast. If Tyson Fury can get away from Wilder's fast punches, um, Joshua might be in trouble.
What's good, family? Smash the like button and subscribe. So we just heard there from Mike the Snake Tyson. Now, obviously, my dons out there who follow my channel will know that I've lost a lot of respect for Mike over the years. Or, sorry, more recently speaking, for what he did to his co-host. And he's exposed himself as a bit of a snake, a bit of a shill, a paid cabal don shill. So, personally speaking, I once paid to have a picture of Mike. I was fangirling it all the way up, but now, yeah, I don't respect Mike at all as a man. He was alright as a boxer, but I don't rate him at all. So Mike and Lennox, the hater Lewis, they're on a par. If anything, actually, Lewis seems to be more credible than Mike. Lewis, I haven't seen him do no real snaky naked things to his peoples. Mike consistently moans at everyone else, moaned at Don King for being a snake, and then does it to his own people. So yeah, end of the day, we heard the comments there from Mike, but typical snaky Don. Now, everyone's obviously entitled to their own opinion, but it just don't make no sense, and I'm going to break it down for you. And what I find frustrating is when maybe Mike's just being genuine, but obviously we know that Tyson Fury went on Mike Tyson's podcast. AJ hasn't been on Mike Tyson's podcast yet, and I think that's what's biasing Mike's opinion. And I get it. But be honest. Come out and say. Mike should be saying now, listen, Fury begged me to come on my podcast. AJ ain't interested because he's got his own stuff going on, and I'm bitter. I'm bitter that AJ ain't trying to be all in the video. That's the truth of it. Mike Tyson is bitter that Fury begged Mike Tyson to get on the podcast. First is you're like, please Mike, can you come on there? That's what people like to see. Same as Lennox Lewis, to be fair. But the reason both of them man are mad at AJ is because he does his own thing. He ain't trying to be all in the video. He's got his own stuff. He's living his own life. He's got his own career. He's got his own status. These old dons, they always want to hang around too long. And they all want it all to be about them. Look at Floyd, another perfect example of that. Although, hats off to Floyd, to be fair. In terms of AJ, at least, Floyd's been alright. But these other man, and I think it's probably to do with the division. When someone, and especially heavyweights, they tend to be even more ego. I don't know what it is, but these big men, I don't know whether it's because they're not used to having to shackle themselves. Floyd being 2 foot tall, he's got used to having to shackle himself to other men. Do you know what I mean? It's not nothing new. Floyd hasn't been able to go to McDonald's by himself for 20 years. So he's used to knowing he's in a vulnerable situation. He's used to knowing there's other men around him that can punk him at any point in time. Mike Tyson, Lennox Lewis, to be fair to them, they've never had that. You know what I'm saying? They've never had to really humble themselves. Their egos have just been able to explode, and no one's ever been able to tell them to reel it in. So on that basis, they see someone young doing their own thing like AJ is, and they just want to stay hating. Now, Mike says, oh, well, I do like AJ. Well, you're talking rubbish. And I'm going to explain to you why he's talking rubbish now. So the first thing he says is, Tyson Fury is too elusive. This thing is what does it. That whole look at the Fury tapes. You'll see Fury in there, yeah, with Otto Wallin or some next German don, some next Euro bum don, and there'll be some highlights of it. People are acting like he's in there with Mike Tyson, and and that's the bottom line here. AJ is the equivalent, or not the equivalent, but along the lines of Mike Tyson in terms of ferociousness. So when you're on the ropes, yeah, and you're doing all that fruity stuff with Wallin, who's a low teed on, ain't got no explosiveness in him, ain't got no combinations in him, slapping, we can all look good doing that. We can all hold the ropes and swing left and right. That looks good. Well, I don't think it does, but to the casual dons, it does. To the Twitter and TikTok dons, it looks good. To the YB who knows boxing, 100% confirmed, that's just fake news. Where was all that even with Wilder, where was that fruitiness against Wilder in the first fight? He weren't doing that. He got caught twice. And that's what really scrambles my mind. These men are meant to know boxing more. But he contradicts himself. He says, oh, well, Fury's too elusive. Where was the elusiveness in the first fight? He got knocked down twice. Knocked down twice. Not a bit of elusiveness. And people forget things, yeah? There's boxers in the past who have been able to, in the pocket, slip and counter. Show me in the Wilder fight, or any of Fury's fights really, where he's slipping and he's really doing, he's really working off of it. Holding the rope, people don't realise, holding the ropes and swaying left and right isn't really, what does that prove? That just proves that you can sway left and right. There's no real science in that. Now, slipping a shot and countering your own consistently, that's magical. That's impressive. But just grabbing the ropes and swaying left and right, that's almost just like, well, it is. It's just a probability game. I'm going to move left and right as fast as I can, and chances are I'm not going to get hit. And that holds when you're fighting people who are slow. Now, Mike says AJ's slow, but whatever. We'll get to that in a minute. When you're fighting these lower tier dons who are slow, they're only throwing one or two at a time, of course you're going to look great, or it looks alright to casual fans. Is that going to hold up at the top level? Well, Wilder isn't even a top level, and it didn't hold up. He got put down twice. Now, the second fight, that is what it is. Fury changed his strategy. And Mike isn't talking about the second fight, because Fury wasn't... I don't remember seeing Fury slip one shot in that second fight, and the strategy had changed, which is fair enough, but what's his point? Fury's too elusive. When has Fury proven this elusiveness? What, against Vlad, throwing one jab at a time? Yeah, I don't get that. That to me isn't elusive. Let's see, for example, let's see Fury in there with Andy Ruiz, and let's see if he's elusive then. And that's another thing. Backpedaling the whole while. That isn't elusiveness, in my opinion. Just backing up, like he did against Chisora in the second fight. Just backing up and throwing a jab, to me, isn't elusive. That's just backpedaling and being 6'9" and abusing your attributes. That doesn't mean he can't win doing it. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm not knocking his win against Chisora in the second fight, but that's not elusive. That's being 6'9" against someone who's 6 foot tall and just abusing the height differential. That doesn't mean you're doing something magical. Who can't do that? Like, for example, imagine someone 20 foot tall and someone else 5 foot tall. And then saying, oh, he's so elusive. No, he's just twice his size. And that's the bottom line. Fury gets so much credit for being elusive, but half it's the fact he's tall. And then when you actually look at the specifics of what's going on, show me where he's being silky. He got knocked down twice in the first Wilder fight. The second Wilder fight, his strategy completely changed and he wasn't really elusive. Feinting isn't being elusive, in my opinion. Elusiveness is when you're in the pocket. I'd say people like, I don't know, James Toney's relatively elusive. Floyd Mayweather is elusive. I've never seen him skills from Fury, if the truth be known. I've never seen him really in the pocket, digging away. Josh Taylor is elusive. Prograde is elusive. In the pocket, working. I've never seen that from Fury. Never seen it at all. He gets credit for things he doesn't do. For example, why didn't he go in there with Vlad, yeah? Vlad can't fire on the inside. Why didn't he go in there with Vlad, get stuck in and be elusive there? And dig away and mix it up? Didn't see it. And that's the point. Fury gets credit for things he doesn't do. I've never seen him be in the pocket and be elusive. That's what elusiveness is. Mike Tyson, and this is what frustrates me, Mike Tyson himself knows what elusiveness is. He would talk about it in his, he'd reference his own career. I remember after one of his fights, he said, oh, I'm impetuous, my defence is impetuous. No, that's not the one. But either way, after one of Mike's fights, he said, I'm just too elusive in there. And in fact, look at Mike's highlight reel. That's the definition of elusiveness. You're in the pocket. You're in range. There's one video of it, yeah? Mike's ducking and weaving. His opponent throws like 6-7 shots, and he's weaving them all in range, not backing up, backpedaling. Anyone can be elusive then, but he's in pocket, in range. He bobs and weaves and slips and slides about 6-7 shots, and then comes up with a big left hook and chins the guy. That there is something to be praised about. When has Fury done that? Never seen it. I've seen him grab the ropes and sway left and right like a big tree in the wind, and then stand there. I'm not being funny. Genuinely, that's not, in my opinion, it's not hard to do. Anyone can do that. It's really not. Now, it does take a certain level of confidence, but again, when you're 6'9", things are just different from up there. You see things coming anyway. And then plus the fact you're not really doing much with it, just swaying left and right. And what's your point? I don't get what so, but for some reason, Fury gets credit for it. It's amazing. What Mike did earned credit, in my opinion. That's true elusiveness, where you're scoring off of it, and you're in there against some decent opponent. He's in there with low-level opponents, and not even doing anything off of it. You don't see Fury slipping a shot and punishing someone with it, and that's what he'd have to be doing against AJ. For Mike to conclude, oh well, you know, Fury's just too elusive, and that means he's going to beat AJ. I'd have to be seeing him pulling off and banging big counters, and I'd say, you know what, who knows? AJ may overcommit, and then Fury's going to capitalise off of it. I've never seen Fury capitalise. Show me where. Even in the second Wilder fight. Show me where he capitalises off of some elusive move. Never seen it. I've seen him slip a shot and then do nothing with it, but that for me isn't rocket science. And equally, I've also seen him get caught twice by Wilder. And this moves me on to the next point. So we've completely shut down the elusiveness part, which is fake news. Then he says, oh, AJ's too slow. AJ's too slow, and Wilder's so quick, and if Wilder couldn't touch Fury, then AJ can't. What are you on about? Wilder did touch... What is this? Wilder did touch Fury twice in the first fight. In fact, he hit him with a right hand, then the left hook. He caught him twice in the same combination. So how slippery are you? Now, I understand, in all fairness, it was a 12-round fight, so to be caught a few times isn't a bad... But at the end of the day, he nearly got knocked out. So are you elusive or not? And the thing is, this whole business of, oh, Wilder's... If Wilder's so much quicker, I'll agree. Well, no, actually I won't. I was about to say Wilder probably is a bit quicker with his right hand. But that's not a true statement, because it depends what you're referencing. Watch the second Wilder fight. Wilder's right hand, I've done a video on it. Wilder himself, going into the second fight, talked about his pressure. I felt a lot of pressure on my shoulders. And what happens when Wilder's under pressure is, it's not the same Wilder that fought Ortiz. That Wilder was calm, in control, and you saw him flick the right hand out. That Wilder, I'd say, is about on par with the AJ who fought Charles Martin. And to be honest, even the AJ who fought Ruiz, that right hand was pinging. I'm sorry, I don't believe Wilder's is quicker. And let me be fair, and if it is, it's marginal. The right hand that AJ threw against Martin and the right hand AJ threw against Ruiz is about more or less the same as Wilder's against Ortiz, in my opinion. No fat in it. Just slips out. So that tells me that AJ on his game and Wilder on his game is about the same, but that's not what's important. We can all be on our best days one thing, but AJ on one of his worst days has a better right hand than Wilder on his worst days. Wilder on his worst days, his right hand just loses all form. And even though AJ's right hand against Pulev did lose a bit of form sometimes, he's able to reel it back in, because the shot that finished Pulev off was a right hand. When Wilder loses his head, he completely loses his head. There's no recomposing himself. He just ends up slinging it and throwing it all around the place. AJ never throws it all around the place. He may overcommit and overlean, but that's completely different to what Wilder does. AJ will overlean and whatnot, but Wilder will turn it into he'll bowl it. It completely changes the whole mechanics of it. It's not the difference between leaning over or overcommitting or not. Wilder, his goes from a straight shot to a big, all different ones. He bowls it over, he puts a bit of top spin on it, a bit of side spin, all the different spins he does on it. So, what do you mean Wilder's quicker? And that's just the right hand. And by the way, that's Wilder's best shot. Wilder's best shot, which is hit or miss. If he comes in under pressure, which he would do against an AJ, against top level opponents, which he's proven to do, his right hand ain't no good. His right hand isn't quicker than AJ's. So that's a false statement. But more importantly, what do we know? AJ's better shots are his uppercuts and his hooks. Don't tell me, oh, well, if Wilder can't catch Fury, then AJ can't. What are you on about? Have you seen Wilder's hooks? Have you seen Wilder's uppercuts? They are big looping. His hooks are the worst. He hits people with his forearm. AJ's never. Yes, AJ has overcommitted with his right hand before, but the hooks and the uppercuts in general are always on point. I've never seen him really I've never seen AJ hit someone with his wrist before, for example. I've always seen AJ hit people with his hand. And it may say simple, but watch Wilder. Watch Fury. Or more so Wilder. But Wilder, you'll see Wilder opening, his arm will be straight. That's why Wilder pulls his shoulders and pulls his biceps. You'll see Wilder like open armed when he throws a hook, almost slapping someone. And you'll see him just straining all of his weak muscles. His skinny little muscles get strained. Get blown out. I don't care what no one says. If you believe Wilder's big looping hooks, where he falls over himself and loses balance and crosses his legs over, his whole torso's crossed over, if you're telling me that is quicker than AJ's hooks and uppercuts, you're just lying. So what is this? And by the way, AJ's main shots are his hooks and uppercuts. So you're comparing apples and oranges here. Oh, well, Wilder's quicker. Wilder doesn't throw uppercuts or hooks, really. And even then, even Wilder's sloppy hook still caught Fury in the first fight. And that was Fury who was lighter and quicker and who was training to be elusive. Now, Fury isn't training to be as elusive. So that's another argument. Fury's strategy. Ben Davison had a max defense strategy. Now, I'm not saying that's potentially the best, but in terms of elusiveness it is. You want Fury to be as light as possible and train in pure defense. And when he did that, he got hit twice. So how elusive is he? The fact he won the second fight has not had. This is the point. The fact Fury won the second fight against Wilder had absolutely nothing to do with elusiveness. It was a complete change of strategy. In fact, Fury had to become less elusive, and he performed better. Does that make sense? Which implies that Fury isn't really that elusive, is he? If elusiveness worked so well, if defensiveness worked so well for Fury, the first fight would have been won with ease. He had to completely turn that strategy on its head and turn into a run-forward fighter. Which tells me that this is what I've been saying for the longest. Fury's defensive skills are massively overrated. Massively overrated. Now, we do have to appreciate he's a heavyweight. What can you do? That's not... End of the day, there's a reason heavyweights don't try to be hella elusive. And Fury... Whilst he's more defensive than other fighters, it's proven it hasn't added much value. Fury's best performances have been when he gets stuck in. And that's the bottom line. And the Wilder fight proves that. He fought the same person, and one fight he lost in my opinion, and the second fight he won. Which exposes this whole, Fury's the best defensive fighter in history. No, he's not. He got exposed. When Fury tries to be defensive, he gets exposed. Unfortunately though, he's going to get exposed again by AJ. Because no matter what Fury does, defensive or not defensive, AJ can touch him all over if he chooses to. And even if it comes to a boxing match, AJ will outbox Fury 100%. So whatever way it goes. And for Tyson to sit there and say, AJ is not going to hit him. What are you talking about? Wilder, big looping Wilder hit Fury. We've seen Otto Wallin hit Fury. These are people who are... There's levels to this game. AJ's got much quicker hands than both of them two, in my opinion. And also much more ferocious, putting much more shots together. And that's another thing as well. Never mind how overrated Fury's defense is. Then when you consider the fact that Fury's defense is arguably overrated against people who aren't really even testing it. I.e., they're not throwing 6 shots at once. It's easy to look good, or relatively easy to look good when you're fighting people throwing 1 or 2, i.e. Vlad. Anyone can look good versus him defensively, if all you're focused on is trying to show someone up. It's another thing when you got AJ in there putting shots in bunches together, punches in bunches, and you're getting touched all over. We're going to find out anyway. If Fury goes in there, and he's slipping, sliding, and making AJ look silly, and wins, I'll say fair enough, I was wrong, but I don't see it. And Mike Tyson's mad that he got punked. AJ punked off He Dead podcast, and that's why you stay sour. Yeah, get over yourself. You got punked, keep it pushing. You're old and you got punked. Simple as that, no doubt.